In this video, we'll take a look at deploying the BIG-IP in Azure via an ARM template. So rather than actually deploying it through the GUI interface, we're going to use a JSON template, an ARM template, and PowerShell to deploy not only the BIG-IP, but all the related objects that are required to make the BIG-IP workable. So before we do that, we need to take one of our marketplace offerings and we need to enable it for programmatic deployments. So to do that, we're going to go through the GUI interface. We're going to choose one of our offerings, and we'll go down to the very bottom of our information, and we'll choose want to deploy programmatically, and we'll select that. That'll bring up the subscription and offer information. We'll choose enable and save. And with that, we can now deploy this offering via a template. So let's take a look at templates. So basically our BIG-IP template and all of the ARM templates actually have essentially three sections. The first section will be parameters. In addition to that, we have a section for variables. And then we have a section for resources. Now the resources correspond to each of our different objects we're going to be creating. So in this case, we're creating a storage account, a virtual network, a public IP address, a load balancing object, which of course creates the various endpoints into the BIG-IP, allowing access for things like SSH, HTTPS, and our management interface, a network interface, and the virtual machine itself, the BIG-IP. Now to fire this off, we're going to pull up this pre-configured deployment utility, PowerShell command. And in this command, we're going to basically provide all the parameters required. We're going to open up and read our parameter file. And then what we'll do is we'll actually create a resource group and then deploy all these objects, once again, through PowerShell into Azure. So we're going to go ahead and sign into Azure. And now the script will fire off. Now typically this type of deployment here, once again, one BIG-IP with its related objects, takes about 5 to 10 minutes to completely deploy. And we can actually watch this happen as we go back to the GUI interface. We're going to see that our new template's been created, or excuse me, our new resource group has been created, and the objects related to the BIG-IP are now already being populated. So as you can see here, we have the load balancing object, interface, public IP, and the BIG-IP itself. So much like when we're deploying through the wizard, now we can watch this happen, and basically we're waiting for the BIG-IP to finish. Now that it's finished running, and this has actually been speeded up through the magic of editing, we're going to go ahead and grab a copy of the FQDN that's created. We'll access the BIG-IP through the browser. In this case here, I'm using a non-standard port for my management interface, 16443. That was configured through the load balancing object. Connect to the BIG-IP just like we would do for an on-premise BIG-IP deployment, for any type of BIG-IP deployment for that matter. We'll authenticate in with our user credentials we provided. Go to the setup utility, provide our license key, accept our agreement, and once the BIG-IP is licensed, now we can actually provision our different resources or different modules. In this case here, I'm provisioning ASM and APM. We'll submit that request. Give the BIG-IP a chance to reboot. And once that's completed, we'll be able to finish our configuration, adding things like our FQDNs, our administrative credentials, and then go on to our actual network information and deploying virtual services.